When I was a kid back in the 1970s, hang gliders were all the rage, and they were real common, especially on the West Coast. And a hang glider is basically a giant kite that you strap yourself into and you go fly around in. But if you lived in an area that didn't have a mountain to conveniently jump off of, you were kind of out of luck. So along the way, somebody came up with the idea of strapping a small motor onto a hang glider just to get it off the ground, get it up to altitude, and then shut it off and catch thermals and do your thing. And generally what they did was the smallest, lightest engine you come up with is a chainsaw motor. It's a 2-cycle engine. And chainsaw motors are powerful, and they're light, and they're simple, but they're not designed to be run wide open for long periods of time. If you think about a chainsaw, you pull the trigger and you go zing and you cut, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, let it idle for a while, and move your wood around and go zing and then stop. It's not, you just don't go zing and hold it for an hour. That's just, they're not designed for that. But these guys started doing this here on the West Coast, and then suddenly more people did it, and then the FAA started noticing that people were kind of manufacturing their own airplanes, which, not a good idea. So they decided to regulate it a little. And what they said was, okay, you can power these aircraft, and they became called radar. They became called ultralights. They said it's no more than one person on board, which is the pilot, which again, that doesn't work because you got to train somebody, you got to have 2 people, so there's kind of a gray area. It can't have more than 5 gallons of gas. It can't be able to travel any faster than 55 miles an hour, and the entire setup sitting on the ground full couldn't weigh over 254 pounds, which also was kind of a gray area that everybody ignored. And they didn't regulate the manufacture of them at all, other than the limits of what it could be. They didn't give design limitations or construction or anything. They just took a hands-off approach. And then the feds came up with this great idea of saying the phrase, oh, and by the way, you don't have to have a pilot's license. And when people hear that, what they're hearing is, oh, I don't need to know how to fly. And the whole idea behind an ultralight is to fly inexpensively. So let's put all these ingredients in the pot together. People who don't know how to manufacture airplanes, building them, with no knowledge of aviation, no knowledge of aerodynamics, cutting every possible corner they can. Oh, what, there's 16 wing spars? Well, just put in 12. Aviation quality materials? Let's put in hardware store stuff. Making a flying contraption out of whatever they can do, the cheapest way possible, with a chainsaw motor, highly unreliable for long-term running, and giving it to a guy who doesn't know how to fly. What could possibly go wrong? So anyway, after a whole bunch of people got killed, they tightened that up quite a bit. And in 1984, I remember there were registered 150 ultralight manufacturers were actually registered. Today, there's a handful, the ones that were actually good. One's called Quicksilver, and another one is called Sabre, S-A-B-R-E, Sabre Trikes. If you are interested in aviation and you want to get in, that is by a wide margin the cheapest way to get in today, if you get properly trained. And I wouldn't buy one secondhand, and I certainly wouldn't buy one secondhand that was built back in the early 80s. But if you get properly trained and you get the right equipment, that can be a lot of fun to fly. And it is not the expense that regular aircraft have with annual inspections and hangar fees and all that stuff. You can take it out in the summer, nice weather, and you can fly it. And then when you're done, you break it down, take it up in your garage. So it doesn't cost you anything to have it, because hangar fees are not cheap. I don't even know why that popped into my head. Every once in a while I see an ultralight, and it kind of makes me smile, because those were real common back in the early 80s. But for the joy of flying, I would recommend looking into that if you're considering getting into aviation. That is the cheapest way possible. I mean, you can literally, the price tags on some of those start at like $10,000, which to get in the air is cheap. All right, have a great day.